It's fair to say that we can expect a variety of drawing tools from Illustrator, because essentially it is a vector drawing application. In this chapter, I'm going to focus on the different types of drawing techniques, starting in this video with the basic drawing tools. One of the most essential and most simple drawing tool is the pencil tool. The shortcut for it is N, and once it's selected, with this you can draw lines. By default, this tool will only use a black outline, so the stroke is set to 1 point and black color, and there won't be any fill whenever you draw with this tool. I am using a Wacom tablet, and that is why you will see that my lines are a little bit more fluid and more dynamic, while if I try to repeat the same thing with the mouse, you will see that I'm not as good as before. Now, luckily, Illustrator offers a lot of different ways of improving your line work, even if you are using a mouse. So when it comes to freehand drawing, the pencil tool is one of the most useful tools that you can work with, especially because it has a couple of features that comes in very handy while drawing. So let me just delete these few lines here, and I am going to show you when we draw with this tool. It offers some preferences which you can get to by double-clicking on the tool itself. Once you do that, you will see in the pencil tool options a few important settings like keep selected and edit selected paths. I already mentioned this in a previous video, but I would like to stress that this is very useful if you keep these on. Now, what it means is that when you are drawing a line, and you decide that you would like to continue that line, you have to be close when you continue drawing, but as long as it's close to the previous line, Illustrator will understand that you would like to continue that previous line that you started. Not only that, but you can also redraw sections of your line. As you can see, I can go over parts, and I can even completely change the way I lead this line. I could even add a note here, for example. So both continuing and redrawing you can do with the pencil tool. And of course, while you are drawing, you can change its attributes like the stroke size or weight and even the color, of course. So once I change that, I can still continue drawing with this, but now with the new attributes. In the Creative Cloud version, you also have an additional option called Option Key Toggles to Smooth Tool. If I turn that on, I can try it holding down the Alt key. I can switch to the Smooth tool, which is not going to redraw these lines, but it's going to simplify them. So it's going to try to make the lines a little bit more smooth and continuous. As you can see, by drawing over a couple of times with the Smooth tool, I can simplify and make it a little bit even more fluid. It is important to remember that you need to have the path selected to be able to continue drawing it. So when I use the pencil tool, you can see currently it's selected and I can continue drawing it. But if I hold down the Command key or Control key and click somewhere outside, then when I go close to it, the little star next to the cursor tells me that it's going to start drawing a new line. So although it was very close, it is still not connected. Another technique that you can do with the pencil tool is to be able to draw straight lines. So I'm drawing freely, but if I hold down the Alt or Option key, I can start drawing straight line segments. Now it's important that don't let go the mouse or the pen while you are doing that. If you want to create a straight line segment, let the Alt or Option key go, and then you can continue drawing again freely. Once again, holding down the Alt, I can have a straight line segment. And then when I let the Alt or Option key go, I can continue again drawing. So this is how you can temporarily switch to straight line segment drawing mode with the pencil tool. When we go back to options, we can also see a fidelity slider, which can be set to accurate or smooth. Notice that I had it in the middle, so I like to keep it there, but let me just show you what does it mean. When it's set to accurate, when I draw, it's going to follow my line as close as possible. If I do something very similar to this, but setting it to smooth, when I draw something similar, you can see it's much smoother. So it's not going to follow my line as closely, Instead, it's going to try to smooth my lines out. As I said, I prefer to keep this slider in the middle. And I also like to use this option most of the time called close paths when ends are within. And I normally type in 10 pixels for this. So that means I don't even have to worry about closing my paths because it will automatically do it for me. So when I get close to the beginning point, it's going to close it up for me. Now let me just make some space here on the right. So let's try this again. And when the little circle appears on the cursor, it means it's going to automatically close the path for me. Now, of course, when it's a closed path, I can still redraw sections of it if I want to. And I can still hold down the Alt key to smooth the lines out. So as you can see, we could create a nice, almost elliptical shape very quickly. Another interesting technique that you can use to make your drawings a little bit nicer is the simplify option. So it's almost like using the smooth tool, but it's more controlled from a general setting. It's under the object menu, path, simplify, where the feature is. Once you click on this, it's going to give you an option how you want to simplify this shape. So we can preview it. And we can see with the curve precision increased, it's going to be closer to the original, or when it's decreased, it's going to be much further away from the original shape. We can even show the original shape together. So that was before, and this is after. And I can also see that it originally had 11 points. Now it has 5 points. And these are called anchor points. So while you are drawing, Illustrator automatically generates these anchor points, which are providing the structure for your paths. Interestingly enough, you can also turn them into straight lines. So the simplify feature can convert curved lines into straight lines as well. That's very useful to remember. We'll come back to this later as well. But for now, I'm just going to click OK. And let's just try this on a more complex path. So I'm intentionally going to draw something much more complex, like that. And now if I go back to Object, Path, Simplify, it's worth assigning a custom shortcut to this if you use it often. But now that I selected it, I can see, if I turn off the straight lines, from 44 points, I can actually get down to 13 points. And I can turn off the show original and maybe just turn the preview on and off just to see before and after how it's simplifying my path. And once again, I could even turn them all into straight lines, but I'm going to keep it curved for now and I will click OK. And this is all you really need to know about the pencil tool. But in this video, I would like to also introduce another tool which is very similar to this, and that is the paintbrush tool. The shortcut for that is B, and it's quite convenient that the shortcuts are next to each other on the keyboard. So N is for the pencil, B is for the brush tool. And this paintbrush, when I start drawing with it, will look almost exactly the same and work exactly the same as the pencil tool, with one major difference. This is actually, by default, is using a calligraphic brush instead of a basic brush. And what that means is that you can actually see a live feedback while you are drawing, while with the pencil tool, when I switch back to it, you only see a path, and then it's going to generate the line along that path once you let go. Of course, with the brush tool, you can also make changes to the settings. If I double click on it, like using the keep selected option and the edit selected paths options, we can continue drawing currently selected paths. So I can continue drawing this, and I can also refine sections of it or completely change it, just like with the pencil tool. If I want to draw a closed shape with this, I have to hold down the Alt key when I get close to the endpoint. And if I want to draw straight lines, I have to hold down the Shift key. This is important that you have to hold down the Shift key before you start drawing. And once you started drawing, you won't be able to change direction. So it will be restricted to continue drawing in that direction. You can draw diagonal lines with it as well, but it's restricted to these directions. So vertical, horizontal, diagonal, when you are holding down the Shift key with the paintbrush tool. So now that we learned these basic techniques, in the next video, I'm going to show you how I would draw over these sunglasses and get to a similar looking drawing to those on the top left side of the artboard.